எதன் கண்ணே நிலையாகி இருந்திடும் உலகமெல்லாம் எதனதெல்லாம் எதனின்று அனைத்துலகும் எழுமோ மற்றிவையாவும் எதன் பொருட்டா எதனால் வையமெல்லாம் எழுந்திடும் எல்லாமும் எதுவே ஆகும் அதுதானே உளபொருளாம் சத்தியமாம் அச்சொருபம் அகத்தில் வைப்பான். நமோ ரமணா. With Bhagwan's immense grace, we have been meditating on the verses of Ulladu, Narpadu, Anubandham. We are in verse number 17. பூபரம் தாங்க இறை போலி உயிர் தாங்களது கோபுரம் தாங்கி உறும் கோரணிகான் மாபரம் கொள் வண்டி செலுவான் சுமையை வண்டி வையாது தலை கொண்டு நலி கொண்டதெவர் போது. Where there are temple towers, there is a Gopuram Tangi. There is a sculpted image, just like the Atlas carries the world. In temples, in those pillars, at the base of the pillars, we will find sometimes this Gopuram Tangi. Those are images where living beings, they put their hands up and grimace their face in an attempt to show that they, who are part of a small bit of sculpture, they are bearing the whole temple tower. So it is like that for their very existence, they need that pillar. They need the ground on which the pillar stands. They need everything. But they act as though that they are the ones who are carrying the temple tower. Therefore, Poli Uyur Tangaladu, Gopuram Tangiurum Koranikan. Whose fault it is if someone who is traveling in a train, when someone is traveling in a train which is pulling the load of all the wagons, which is bearing a great burden, Mahabaram Kul. Mahabaram Kul Vandi. Mahabaram Kul Vandi is, this train is carrying all the load. The train with the engine called Ishwara Shakti is carrying all the load of Purumayam Bhudara. Punsolai Nansolai Porutharu Ishtambin Arunachala. Purumayam Bhudara. Of that too, how he is bearing that with absolutely great patience, great peace. Ishvara Shakti is bearing all the loads that ever exists. Now that Mahabaram Kul Vandi Seluvan, the one who is traveling in a train which is actually carrying all the loads, if he keeps his load on his head, then Vandi Vayyadu Talai Kondu, who is to explain this kind of folly? Now, who is to be blamed in this situation? Whose fault it is if someone who is traveling in a train which is bearing a great burden undergoes suffering by bearing this small burden on his own head instead of placing it on the train? Now, this is a simple verse for all of us who are coming and following Bhagwan's Bhakti Margam. But it is an important verse for those who come directly to the Jnana Margam. Like perhaps me, when in 2004 I started off in self-inquiry, this verse would be a great help if this quality which Bhagavan asks, that the sadhaka should not only understand that Dega Poshana is like sitting on a crocodile trying to cross a river, and the Dehatma Bhavam and the who am I are the essence of all dharma and all the four paths and siddhis you should live knowing the one path, or knowing that definitely this is not going to lead to peace of mind. So those were there. But more importantly, if we can understand this one verse, that the Sharanagati, to that one power, Bhuvaram Tangairai, Polivir Tangaladu. The aspect of surrender is imbued in Bhagavan's teachings, which we may miss out if we listen to a pure Vedantin, or if we listen to a pure Bhakti Margi, we will be left wondering whether we are eligible to practice Atma Ucharan at all. So both these are covered by Bhagavan's grace when he says that one need not hold the concepts like Maya in the Vedanta, and one need not be afraid of practicing the sadhana of Atma Ucharan, because Bhagavan has merged both the paths by saying that the concept of ignorance is enough. The concept of ignorance is enough to go holding the eye. For whom is the ignorance? If you ask, that's enough. You need not ask what is Maya. For whom is this ignorance? If you ask, it will take you to the final absorption in the self. So Bhagavan is a Jnana Marga teacher who has said Maya does not exist. He doesn't need the concept of Maya to explain his teachings. At the same time, whoever can put aside even a single thought with the quest of who am I, he says you are eligible to do Atma Vichara. A single thought put aside for even a trice takes one a long way towards the goal of self-realization, assures Bhagavan. So we go into the lovely topic of surrender, which we all say, but how difficult it is in actual practice. Since it is no different from any other sadhana, it is difficult to actually practice surrender. So we see one or two examples and how Bhagavan takes us all in this path and uses the whole universe as his chessboard to arrange that we learn. We learn both surrender to the arrival as well as the jnanam of the self. In my own personal journey in Bhagavan, this each member of the family also Bhagavan brought through his grace by his Shakti, by the Ramana Shakti. Somehow we can't explain why he has dragged each of them in their own way towards the Bhakti Marga. I will just share the experience with my daughter, whom I was very much close with. Not only that, whom I greatly respected for making me want to be a really good person. When a child is innocent, you really want to raise yourself from wherever you are so that she can look up to you. So those were my thoughts with her, and I was very close to her to such an extent that I wouldn't even allow her to go to a shop nearby. And in her engineering, she got the NIT Trichy. That's about 400 kilometers from Bangalore. So the first time she went there, I could go with her. The second time, the train there, it goes at 4 o'clock in the morning, and she has to go about 17 kilometers and then start a journey from the gate of the college to the hostel, which is about 2 kilometers walk. At 4:30 in the morning she has to go. So the first day she called, first time she went alone, she called, and we could share that, see, this form is not your real protector. This form, whom we call as father, is not the real protector. It is Bhagavan Ramana who is the real protector. So you keep holding Bhagavan's nama and go. A few, and interestingly, each of these relationships were separately taken care of by Bhagavan. My account balance was separately closed by him. Each of the relationship was a satsang. Each of the relationship dropped the earlier relationship and became a journey towards seeing the light that Bhagavan is showing. So the very same relationship is no more like father and daughter, but as two going towards Bhagavan's light. Now, a few journeys later, when she had come home, we took the inquiry to the next point where we realized that when we were sitting near each other also, this form was not protecting her, because so many things were happening inside her, from thoughts to processes of various subtle organs, over which I have no protective rights. So we realized that even when you are sitting near me, you have to hold Bhagavan, you have to surrender to Bhagavan. And a few more trips later, same sofa, side by side, we realized our journey got to the next point in bhakti, that the discussion was, who is protecting me? If you consider me as a separate entity from Bhagavan, then it is Bhagavan who is protecting me. When I am dependent on Bhagavan for my protection, where is the question of me independently having ever protected you? So, slowly Bhagavan, each of these relationships becomes a journey towards Bhagavan, and you will be allowed by Bhagavan to see that how Bhagavan is taking that. And there were two, three more incidents which made her journey very strong. And also in my better half's case, also Bhagavan appeared in her dream, and that was the first time we had gone to Tiruvannamalai. In fact, we had no photographs of Bhagavan at home at that time, because I was pursuing the Atmaucharam. So she had no chance of seeing Bhagavan's photos here, and in fact that trip was to be to Shirdi, because she wanted to go and we couldn't get the tickets for that. And I said, anyway, we have another pilgrimage center where I am staying. I am having the room there. Why don't we go there for these 2 days? And she came, and that day when we had a nap, in her dream, Bhagavan came, and in their home, the ancestral home, in their puja room, Bhagavan is calling her. The thing is, whenever the great ones appear in one's dream, it is like a near-death experience. It is like being transported to a different world where your ego is egoless, where your ego is not able to function, and the Guru Upadesha becomes very clear. Her life completely shifted to Bhagavan Bhakti. There was no stopping from there, from that one incident of Bhagavan coming. The power of Bhagavan simply took over her life. There were many incidents which have shifted her sadhana step by step, and totally Bhagavan is taking care. Now, it is very palpably clear that it is the Ramana Shakti which is taking care. These things are not possible for any individual. That what the Guru is doing, what the Ishvara Shakti and Ramaneshwara is doing. Now, this is my personal journey, and this has happened in many other relationships wherever Bhagavan is taking over. It is very clear that it is Bhagavan who is running that life. There was another gentleman, Mr. Satnarayan Rao, who practiced devotion to Bhagavan. He had taken a group of people to Tirupati. He was a ceramic engineer of great repute. So he had taken some ceramic factory people to Tirupati, that he knew the people there, people in politics. and he had the pass and he could take them for darshan, and they go in there and the government has changed and the pass is not working. So by 9:30, he's a 70-year-old person, is so tired that he says tomorrow morning we'll get up and go back to Bangalore, and he accepts defeat. And he says, just before going to sleep, he prayed to Bhagavan, Bhagavan, what is this? Depending on me, they have all come here. You show me a way. And he got sleep. In his sleep, somebody has worked and they have contacted the same authorities, and the authorities have contacted this room and told, don't disturb Satyanarayana Rao, you come and pick up the pass, and early morning 4 o'clock they have had darshan. And how he narrated the incident to me was, see sir, we have gone to Tirupati to worship Venkatachalapati, the deity, and there I prayed to Bhagavan. And Bhagavan just clears up. Now these are all apparently the miracles which Bhagavan is saying, you don't go after. But how that Ramana Shakti, it deepens the path of surrender. And so many incidents, he would just, what to say? Now, that is what Bhagavan is asking you. Hold the Ishvara Shakti for surrender. That will just transform your sadhana. The Atma Vicharam will be taken and with great felicity, with great ease, one will be taken to the removal of whatever hurdles are there in the path to the self. Now, we come to the discussion of the verse as much as we can, but this is the import that for practicing Atma Vicharam, the total surrender to Bhagavan is an absolute help. And the more you realize that it is Bhagavan who has brought the sadhana, the who am I is a form of Bhagavan. Where were you headed? You just think back. When I think back, where was I headed? Absolutely nowhere. There was no direction, and the directions were all wrong. It cannot be but that the Irai Shakti has had some kind of extraordinary compassion which you cannot measure, that turns you around. And the more you immerse in Atma Vicharam and sadhana of Bhagavan, it is very, very, very clear that Ishvara Shakti is the one out of compassion who has allowed you to have the journey and the buddhi and the final samarpanam also. And without that gratitude to the Ishvara Shakti and to all those whom the Ishvara Shakti has brought as pluses and minuses in your life, we are thankful to all of that, because all of that is brought by this one Shakti, and that absolute gratitude allows you to rest in the self. Abidance of the self becomes complete when surrender to Ishvara becomes complete. Now we go into the verse. Bhubaram Tanga Irai. Now these are contributions by Bhagavan, which are the bridges between the two paths. To the extent you can, you try to wrap your mind about it. If we cannot, that's also fine. It doesn't matter. All that matters is we have to surrender to Bhagavan. If one cannot make out, first let me complete an important portion about the Parayanam, which if we can understand the beauty and subtlety of Bhagavan's Bhakti Marga, you can understand. See how a simple sadhana of Parayanam. Pankajamma used to say, I have only talked to her twice. Many of our songs have been composed by Ramanacentre Center for Learning as part of Ramananjali. But I have met her only twice, but she has been very kind to narrate her whole incident, whole life. And the key part she used to say is that the moment she gets up in the morning and gets ready, cleaned up, the whole of Arunachala Stuti Panchakam, which is about, let us say, 45 to 50 minutes of Parayanam, and Ramana Stuti Panchakam, which is about, say, 30 minutes of Parayanam, it will go on effortlessly. She doesn't have to do anything. It will start of its own and it will go on effortlessly. Now, that is where the ego has been erased. The doer is gone. There is only the Stuti Panchakam, the whole objective space is covered by the Stuti Panchakam, and the ego is completely free of doership. The world of Stuti Panchakam is going on its own. And that's all. Stuti Panchakam alone is there, completely surrounding her. Now, to that place, how the sadhana of Parayana, she would say that once Bhagavan, when the Gurave Namaha, when she does the chanting as Guruve Namaha, Bhagavan would he corrected her. No, it's not Guruve Namaha, it is Gurave Namaha. Now that singular correction and the clue that Bhagavan gives in Parayanam, it starts with the sensory. Again, my better half and I, when she started her Bhakti Marga journey, 6 months we did the practice of Ramanacentre and learned it. Wherever we would be, wherever we would go, we would learn that. Then the Stuti Panchakam. Then she said, you don't need to join me, I'll do the Parayanam on my own. So she does her Parayanam. The key contribution that Bhagavan brings here, which is very unique, is that whenever a devotee who is following the path, the simple path of Parayanam, which starts with a sensory chanting, but it slowly becomes mental. It slowly becomes mind-based. It starts going automatically in the mind. What Bhagavan says is so beautiful. He says, whenever many of those devotees would ask Bhagavan, what is the meaning of this particular verse or this particular word? Most of the time, except for very few cases where the sadhaka must be following the meaning marga or the intellectual part, otherwise wherever we read, Bhagavan says, the Parayanam itself is its meaning. Doing Parayanam itself is its meaning. See, what does this imply? Let us just see and just drink that honey of Bhagavan's teachings. It is so blissful to know how the journey of the sadhaka is taken by Bhagavan. See, the Parayanam, which starts with coarse shouting, mistakes in that, then slowly you get down to getting comfortable with your mistakes, or let's say coming near towards the right Parayanam, but never absolutely perfect of the great Tamil chanters and all that. But still, the jiva is not in a topsy-turvy state, it's comfortable with the Parayanam. Then that Parayanam crosses the breath disturbances and the mental disturbances. That is when it starts asking, what is the meaning of this? What is the meaning of this word? I am not able to understand. So the intellect has started. So the journey of the sadhaka has moved from sensory to breath to mind to the intellect. And when he comes to Bhagavan or she comes to Bhagavan and asks Bhagavan, what is the meaning of this? And when Bhagavan is saying, no, don't allow your intellect to go for the meaning. Drag it back. Fix it in the Parayanam. That means the Parayanam must become so subtle that the intellect is able to subtly ask, what is the meaning of this? Bhagavan says, no, don't allow that subtle movement. Cut it there. That means the jiva is traversing the worlds of intellect by starting with Parayanam. And Parayanam, when it becomes like Pankajammal state, it is able to see the rise and fall of the ego itself. When it becomes effortless, then that whole offering, see what happens is the Parayanam now consumes all the worlds. There is no desiring any world, any objective space. It is all the Parayanam only. It is all the Parayanam that is occupying. The doer is also not there. It is all automatically divine grace is going on. Now you can clearly see the rise and fall of the ego. What one has to do in Atma Vicharam, the Bhakti Margi is able to do. This is the beauty of Bhagavan, how he shows literally. It's not that it's a journey made by many Bhakti Margis, but it's the delineation of it, of Bhagavan, making it so crystal clear that this is what you have to do. If you are doing Parayanam, do Parayanam. And when the journey comes and the mind starts playing with the subtle level of this could have been like this has 3-4 meanings. When we are chanting this, Probably this means like that. It says drag it back and put it in the subtle parayanam. So cross that intellectual world. This is a beautiful contribution from Bhagavan. So whether we cover the other aspects or not of the shlokam, this particular thing I wanted to share. Now we go into the other beautiful contribution of Bhagavan of Akhanda Vritti. The I, how it is the first manifestation of the self, the Ishvara Shakti, how it bridges the Bhakti Margam and the Jnana Margam, and why many Bhakti Margis or even the great philosophies of the West, they start with I do not know of surrender and are not able to traverse to the self, to come to the self. But in one sense, they are relying on the self to drag. But we see how Bhagavan gives us the bridge. Bhuvaram Tanga Irai. That means when God is bearing the universe, says Bhagavan, has Bhagavan given clues as to how the being consciousness bears the universe. So there are 2 points in this, both contained in the Ashtakam, which makes it clear factually how the Akhandakara Vritti of I or I am, how it carries the load of the entire cosmos spread over in any objective space. It is not the subject, it is the object. How all that is borne by the Ishvara Shakti, Bhagavan gives it 2 verses of Attakam. We have seen those verses many times again and again, and that's not to be let us say, it is to be happily gone into again and again, because then alone the truth of that can be extracted and abided in. Now, what Bhagavan says is, Irundulir unaividu tadutidal devam, iruttinai vilakkedu tadutidalekad, Irundulir unai arivuruttidarkendre, irundanai madandorum vidavida uruvai. So first point is, Bhagavan says, O Arunachala, you are the being consciousness. Now, the being consciousness is the I am. As Akka was sharing the other day, that's from one of his extracts from the Bible, the Old Testament, where Moses asks God, if these people whom I am reading ask me, what is the authority or who is it that has asked you to take us to the promised land, then what am I to say? Then it is said that God has replied, I am that I am. That I am the ever-present being consciousness. Now that being consciousness is alone called by different names in different paths, says Bhagavan. That is point number 1. That is, the I am is called by different names. This I am, where it can be experienced in each one of us. That is the next point. Irundanai madandorum vidavida uruvai, irundulir unai arigilarenil anno, Iravin Arivaru Kurudareyaga, Irundulir Irandara Enadulathundrai, Inayarum Arunama Malayanum Maniye, Manigalil Saradana Uirtorum, Nana Madantorum, Uruvanai Maruvinai Nidan. So, Manigalil Saradana, which is Gita also mentions like that who is this Ishvara? In one sense, he is that being consciousness which is standalone, which does not require any word for its support. Irundulir is the standalone Ishvara. He doesn't need any alambane. But he is also the thread that collects the subject, object and perception triad. He is the thread that connects not only in this, whatever universe experience is there. We were sharing in the last interaction a contribution from the periphery world, that the world in the Pitruloka, the world in Devaloka, the world in Pitruloka, the one day is the 1 month in our world. That means the moon waxing is the 15 days of waxing fortnight, that is their day. The waning 15 days is their night. Similarly, for Devas, he says, the Uttarayanam is their day and Dakshinayanam is their night. Now, in all these worlds, whichever worlds, I am just citing these two because we have discussed that. Now, Bhagavan is saying that Irundulir, that being consciousness is the Adhara. Because all those worlds require triads, require the observer, act of observation, and the observed world. All the three are separately required, but they are all connected across all the worlds by Arunachala, who is Irundulir, being consciousness. So these two concepts, that God or Irai is the being consciousness within each one of us, and he connects everybody, he connects everything. Nowadays, in some areas of science, they are able to find, and they are all amazed as to how these connections happen across so much distance, that a change here brings about a change there. But I think the interactions with Vedanta, in my opinion, will bring some clarity there. See, they come up to a point that Einstein finds that in this plane, where the physical light, which travels at 3 lakhs kilometers per second roughly, is the outer limit, is the limit in which this is functioning. And within that, these are the experiences that we have. Now, in one of the translations of the, which was that, the Bhagavad Gita, one of the translators, he mentions that the Manovegam is far faster than this light, the physical light. It can go to any of those words which Paripariya has said, or that is, the Manovegam is much faster than the Stula light. But interestingly and beautifully, that commentator says, the Atma is even faster than the mind. Wherever the mind goes, it will find the Atma already there. Because if you ask for whom is this Pitruloka, you have to be there. For whom is this thought about Devaloka, you have to be there. For whom is this thought about Brahmaloka, you have to be there. And that's why Bhagavan makes it easy by asking us to hold the I here itself. Whether those lokas are real or not, we don't know, says Bhagavan. But you all know that you exist. So, hold the I, says Bhagavan. And that will take us to the I, the Akanda Akara Vritti. This Akanda Akara Vritti is the bridge that Bhagavan gives. That is why he doesn't need the contribution of Maya, the positing of Maya in his teachings. Says that from up to this, why the Jiva cannot know? Because the Jiva has knowledge only in the area of Tripudi. To come to the Akandakara Vritti of Ishvara, it has to drop that knowledge. It has to let go of the Tripudi, then only the life current is visible. And the life current, when it is held for its own sake, it also quietens into the self. This is the bridge which Bhagavan gives, and which allows us to hold Bhagavan as Ishvara and him as the self also, and practice Atma-uchara. Bhuvaram Tangairai Poli Uyir Tangalade. When we clearly know, and it is revealed to us that Ramana Shakti is what is doing all this, to carry our load. And forget that, some of us saying that we are carrying other people's loads. Is really funny, says Bhagavan. Is really funny, like that sculpture saying, I am carrying the temple tower, and the other references, is it not foolish? So while traveling in a train which is carrying all that load, that you carry the load on your head rather than keep it in the luggage rack. That is the teaching in this verse. We have of course discussed much more during the week. I would like you to go through, and if you have some doubts you can ask. I would like to close with one incident of T.K. Sundaresh Iyer, which indicates that the same I am is only called by us in different names. So there is no need to change the sadhana of the Ishta of somebody. There is no need to change your Ishta Devata also, because that Ishta Devata will take us to the I am, the Adhara, the being consciousness. And that's why Bhagavan again and again says, all those names have the same power. The Gayatri Mantram, the Omkaram, the Om Namah Shivaya, the Krishna Mantras, the Rama Mantras are all equally efficacious. But you will have to choose one, he says. You hold one. Because where you have to go, you should not go to multiplicity, you have to go to one. So you hold one. That will take to the Abheda Dhyana. Veda Bhavana Sohamityaso. Better than treating that Rama is apart from you, it is better to treat that Rama is the Adhara of the I, or is the very I itself. So that becomes Abheda Dhyana or Atma Vicharam. We close this exchange or satsang with the incident from T.K. Sundaresh Iyer. It's his 34th or 35th birthday and is sitting by Bhagwan's side and he is looking dejected. And Bhagwan, in compassion, looks at him and says, why? What's happening? Says, Bhagwan, I am coming here from my 14th year of age. And there are many people who say their spiritual experiences, but I have had none. And Bhagavan would have said elsewhere to many other speakers, in this path of Atmavicharam, there are no milestones. It is all pure light. Any milestone, the ego will catch and say, I have reached this milestone. So it's not there, you would say. So this gentleman also would not have found any milestones. And he would be really worried. And Bhagavan will look at him and he will be transported to the Rama Pattabhisheka Darshana. The Romanchana, there is total bliss. He completely loses himself and the same Darshana that the Rama Pattabhishekam was given to Tyagaraja Swamigal, he is immersed in that bliss. Hours, 2 hours go by. The whole retinue have gone to their lunch and come back. Bhagavan has also gone and come back. And after coming back, he comes out of his trance. He is so thrilled. And he is so thrilled and Bhagavan asks, Enna, Darshana Acha, or something like that. I am not even paraphrasing. And T.K. Sundareshwar says, yes, this is what happened. I had total darshanam of Pattabhiraman and that was as it was given to Tyagaraja Swamigal. I am so totally happy. And Bhagavan brings the Ashtotram. I forget it whether it is Dakshinamurti Ashtotram or the Ashtotram of Arunachala. In that, beyond 90, I think 93rd or 94th name, in that Ashtotram, the 108 names, the 94th name or 95th name is the Shiva's name is Om Pattabhiramaya Namaha. And Bhagavan says there is no difference. The same power we call as Pattabhirama. For the sake of some, the same power appears as Pattabhirama and saves them. For the sake of some others, it appears as Arunachala and saves them. You hold the I am, the Hridayam, which is the one name of the Ishta. That's why the surrender, when we understand and when we hold the I, all the Ishtas join together and come and help in our sadhana. That's what in the preface to the book we were reading this Saturday, compiled by our founder president K.R. Natarajanji, the foreword by our past president, the President of India, R. Venkataraman. There is a quote where Bhagavan says to a Buddhist, see, Buddha, Jesus, Christ, all the gods are inside each one of us. Each one is an avataram. The avatara sees each one as avatara. In fact, all of us are having Krishna, Rama, Jesus Christ, Allah also says, are all inside us. Therefore, all we have to do is surrender to that one power and practice Atmavicharam with great faith in Bhagavan. Muruganar Swami will tell Sharadaka, with great faith in Bhagavan, keep practicing. Keep practicing. That is the essence of this verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Let us sit and practice for 10 minutes. Revathima, you can set the time for us. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as the self in all beings. And this is what Nandakumarji has been telling us today. Ramana shining as the self in all beings. That one power shining everywhere. That one God connecting everyone. And Bhagavan actually gives us specifically this answer in his narration when he is saying that poem where he says, who is he? He says, Ariyadi itara jeevargal agavari jaguhayil arivai rami paramattaman arunachala Ramana. He could have simply said in his Hridaya Kuhara Madhya, he simply says, Hridaya Kuhara Madhya kevalam brahma matram. But here he says, Hariyadi itara jeevargal. So he says in all beings, and even the greatest of gods he took, Hari. Because from there onwards, then everything else is included in that. In all beings, beginning from Hari, that which shines as awareness is Arunachala Ramanan, Bhagavan says. So that supreme power, in fact, Sadhuam Swami says in his song, Ravichandra Taregalu, translated in Kannada, Irisiruva Bhujake, Harisiruva or Dharisiruva Bhujake, that those shoulders which are actually carrying the sun and the moon and the stars, is it not capable, are they not capable of fulfilling the needs of his devotees? Kunju Swami used to say, I don't have to ask anyone else. When the emperor of the universe is my father, where do I have to go to seek anything? The emperor of the universe is my own father. We have come to Bhagavan, who is the emperor of the universe, in that sense. And Bhagavan has asked Ganapati Muni, and just on one, in a rare instance, he says, Naina, if all the planets are revolving around my waist or my hip, who am I? So Bhagavan rarely reveals that the divinity of his, but in this Hariyadi verse, and also here to Naina, he has given a clue that he is that supreme power. Now, what all can we leave safely to that supreme power will be a question then next. See, when that power is supreme, when there is the emperor of the universe, at least an emperor of the universe may have only power over all that is external to him, but he may not even have power over his own body. But this emperor is not like that. He is the Atma Shakti who is actually controlling everything. He is the substratum and he is controlling also everything. So what is it that we cannot get from Bhagavan? And if that is the case, the next question which all these people, the great ones, put to us is that he's not only all powerful, he is all knowing. Because he is the very Arivu. Arivai Ravi Paramatman. It's what Bhagavan says. So he's a very Arivu. He is a knowledge itself. So he knows also what is required. Not only is he capable of giving what is required, he knows what is required and then he can give it. So there's no need even for us to waste our energies in trying to know what is required by us. Because he already knows it himself. And when does he give it? Bhagavan says in Ramanacentre Bengaluru, now he is not going to give it to us after we ask. He is giving it to us before we ask. And this we can see in every aspect of life. I often give some examples. I say that, see, if we imagine that, if we just say we are hungry, I'm hungry, I want something to eat. Okay, then I may have something in my home. I may have some stuff with which I can cook. I may have some bread, or I may have some biscuits, or whatever it is. Or I may have rice which I can cook and eat. Say if I have rice which I am cooking and eating, or I don't have anything. There was old Mother Hubbard went to her cupboard and found that the cupboard was bare. So then what do I have to do? I have to go and get provisions. So then I think I am going to the market and I am buying the provisions. But where did they come to the market from? See, even if I have to cook rice, the rice has to be ready in order for me to cook it. And who made the rice ready for me? Who planted the seeds of the rice? Who made it harvest? Who made it grow? Who brought it to the market? We expend so much energy thinking what we have to do next. Which school should I put my child into? So much of thought. But already, like, we feel, I've got admission in this school by Bhagwan's grace. Wonderful. But imagine that grace which already put that school in place. It built that school, it educated the teachers, it made the administration, brought the school up to a point where we can say, oh, this is a good school into which I am putting my child. I am getting my child admitted into this school. Everything is ready already. So Bhagavan says, Kela Dalikum. In this scenario, what do we have to think about is what Bhagavan is asking us. So isn't it foolish, Bhagavan says, if we want to carry the load on our head? Very obviously in the analogy which Bhagavan is giving us in this verse, which he has repeated often, and very famous quotes, both these aspects are known aspects of Bhagavan's teachings. Many people keep quoting this. And he says that, see, if I am sitting on a train or in a train, and if I carry my luggage on my head, actually the train alone is carrying me as well as the luggage, whether the luggage is next to me or on my head. And if we look at the analogy of the Gobara Bommai, it is even more interesting, because the Gobara Bommai is of the very material which the Gopuram is. It is not of a different material at all. It's just actually at one with it, but has a different form, apparently different form. If you break it down, it will be the same brick and mortar, same plaster, same material as the Gopuram. So it's very clear that there is no differentiation at all. And when we look at it in this way, and then we look within through Atma Vicharam, what happens? Firstly, in Atma Vicharam, Bhagavan allows us to segregate. Bhagavan allows us to accept our own tendency to get first mixed up with the thoughts. We tend to get mixed up with the thoughts. We cannot separate ourselves from our emotions at all. Then the next step, when Bhagavan says, if I ask yourself for whom is this thought, then we recognize that, there is something called a thought which is rising and setting. An experience comes as an object, and we perceive it, we see it, and we get mixed up with it. So then we separate ourselves. Today, Venkateshji was telling me the very, very important step in sadhana, in Bhagavan's self-inquiry, recognizing that thought is an object. Not only accepting it intellectually, but recognizing it, even as it rises. When we see the rising and setting of thoughts, or when we watch our thoughts, we will realize, this is some entity which is watching, and some entity which is being watched. So these are the objects. So what do we feel at that point of time? Bhagavan asks us to say, actually, these are my thoughts. Okay, if we stop there, we will still be Gobaram Tangum Bommai. Because we will say these are my thoughts. But then that's why Bhagavan gives that very beautiful point of surrender, which is, who am I? Who am I? If I am to claim that all these are my thoughts, then who am I who is capable of having all these thoughts, who is capable of creating, sustaining, and dissolving these thoughts? Which is this entity? Am I a separate such entity? So when I realize that I am no separate entity, because Bhagavan says, what happens to you in deep sleep? You disappear. Then how can you be the support of all your thoughts? You are not the real support of anything at all, not even of your thoughts. So that in order to make us understand that we cannot irresponsibly hold our thoughts, he asks us to question and accept these are my thoughts, because that's what we are believing. We are being those Gopuram Thangum Bommais. Think, oh, these are my emotions, my feelings, and I have to do something about it. I have to act. So we are constantly in that grip of it. And then otherwise also, it's like when we first begin by understanding that Bhagavan is taking care of everything for us, as Nandakumarji gave us some beautiful instances. And we know all the instances. There are famous instances of surrender to Bhagavan. Story of Kaulakshmi is there. And of course, there are the great devotees surrendered to Bhagavan. And there's a famous instance of Devaraja Mudaliyar telling, Bhagavan, you're not doing anything for me. I have surrendered everything to you. Why? Bhagavan makes Devaraja Mudaliyar say that, because then Devaraja Mudaliyar is told by Bhagavan, well, you have left everything to me, isn't it? Now, whether I do something in your sadhana, don't do something, whether you progress, don't progress, it is not for you to ask. Because you have left it to me, isn't it? Then how come you're asking me whether there is progress or no progress? So to that extent, and real surrender means actually what happens in self-inquiry. Only the surrender of every thought, because every thought is a raising of my identity. So only self-inquiry can take us to that real understanding that I'm carrying the load on my head right at the thought level. Right at the thought level. Forget afterwards and then a particular incident. Every thought is my carrying the load on my head. Every thought. Whenever I have a thought, I am becoming a Gopuram Thangum Bommai. When I can realize this only through self-inquiry, which is of course Bhagavan's grace. Which is Bhagavan's grace. And Bhagavan's grace it's inexplicable. As Nandakumarji repeatedly tells us, we are so fortunate that Bhagavan has given us this adhara. He says in Ramanacentre Siirai Alizhithu Nirvanamai Seythu Arul Siirai Alizhitharul, but he is so sweet. He gives the Arul Seera adhara in the beginning and then Siirai Alizhithu for all of us by telling us that he is there for us. That is the assurance, no? This verse is his assurance. I'm there for you. Why are you worried? Why are you carrying the load on your head? What load is there for you? Leave it to me. That is his assurance in this verse to us, out of great compassion and very sweetly brought home to us by Nandakumarji with very natural instances of our own daily life. Each one of us would have gone through these kind of journeys, isn't it? And I often remember this, which he talks about his exchange with Archana. It often comes to me. In fact, I even exchange it with my cook, Mami, who is at home. She's an old lady. She said, you're going away, leaving me here for 10 days or 5 days or 3 days. I told her, Nandakumarji says this. Who is taking care of you now? Am I taking care of you when I'm here? Oh, why are you telling me all this? You're telling me that my Srinivasa is taking care of me always. Yes, Mami, that is what I am telling you. So it is so beautiful, That is what Bhagavan is telling us here. So that we don't have to be anxious about anything. And Nandakumarji often says, do your sadhana with a light touch. What is that light touch? That light touch is the lightness which comes out of the understanding that Bhagavan is the one who is bearing the load. So when there is no load, there is lightness. That is the grace which is revealing itself to us today as well. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ram.
Namo Rupnaka. Namo Rupnaka to all.
Ramananjali, Ramananjali, Ramananjali.